Hi everyone, welcome to my first YouTube video. This is Biology with Beth. Today we're going to start off with some fundamentals of biology because I feel like a lot of people find this really easy and done to death, but it's really important that we understand this in order to understand the rest of Biology AQA. Okay, so we're going to start off with differences between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Then we're going to follow with animal and plant cell diagrams, then subcellular features, and we're going to end with some exam question practice because I feel like that's one of the most important ways of revising, one of the most effective ways of active recall. Okay, so prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells are the two main types of cells. Prokaryotic cells do not have a proper nucleus. They have DNA, but this DNA isn't enclosed in a nucleus and it is a circular strand of DNA, whereas eukaryotic cells are enclosed in a membrane which is called the nucleus. And we can look at the names to remember this. So karyotic just means cell, pro means before, eu means true, so eu means they have a nucleus. And eukaryotic cells have evolved from prokaryotic cells to be more complex and larger. So prokaryotic cells are small and simple. Examples of prokaryotic cells are bacterial cells, whereas eukaryotic cells are things like animal and plant cells. Now, because prokaryotic cells are quite small, they don't contain any chloroplasts or mitochondria because these structures are actually too big to exist in these sort of cells. Okay. Now, let's look at an example of a prokaryotic cell, which is a bacterial cell. And here's a diagram. So you can see, you probably won't be asked to label it, but it's important that we know the structures. It's more common that you'll be asked about animal and plant cells, which we'll discuss later on. So there's a cell membrane and wall. This can be found here. This is like the outer layer. Now, this squiggly thing here, that's a circular strand of DNA, and this can float freely throughout the cell. Doesn't really have a set structure like it has in eukaryotic cells. Plasmids, these are only found in prokaryotic cells, and these are small rings of DNA. And actually, this is how, between bacteria cells, this is how they exchange genetic information. They can transfer these, and when they divide, it's not a set amount of plasmids that get transferred, and you won't find this in eukaryotic cells. They have a flagellum, funny word, and this allows them to travel through the cell, through any medium. This is kind of like a sperm cell with their little tail, which helps them to move through any fluid. It just helps them move along. It's an adaptation. And this is a evolutionary adaptation, which is a result of antibiotic resistance, and they've developed this, well, some of them have developed this hard shell, which means that it's harder for antibiotics to kill them. Now, you may well be asked about labeling an animal cell. So we're going to just start with identifying and spotting and knowing what they look like before we come to define the subcellular features. Nucleus, it's normally just a black spot. It's quite easy to spot, really, and you're gonna have to look for an eye. It kind of looks like a pupil, really. Cell membrane, pretty easy. It's just the outer layer going all around it. Mitochondria, these little dots, they're very small, so you're going to find these in prokaryotic cells as well. And the cytoplasm, which is a jelly-like substance, which you'll find in any gap between the cell. Okay, now the functions. You do have to memorize these are really important. Okay, the nucleus contains all the genetic material in the cell. It's not like prokaryotic cells which have plasmids. It's contained in a membrane, controls the activities of the cell. It's the brain of the cell. Mitochondria, aerobic reactions take place here. It's really important. It's aerobic, not anaerobic. Aerobic means with oxygen present. Anaerobic means without. And it releases energy, which is also known as ATP. You might come across that as well. And it conducts respiration. Ribosomes, where proteins are made. Cell membrane controls what goes in and out of cells. So this could be molecules, this could be the products of respiration, letting out energy and then taking in other substances, and it holds the cell together. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance. It's where most of the chemical reactions happen. This is where anaerobic respiration occurs, and it contains enzymes that control these chemical reactions. Okay, now we're going to look at plant cell. This is another example of a eukaryotic cell, and it has this other structure. It's almost like two cell membranes, but this version is called cell wall. And that's really important for the structures. You'll notice that the animal cell that we've just looked at is asymmetrical, doesn't really have any structure, but this is a solid rectangle. It obviously has some structure going on. Chloroplast, these are some green ovals. Now, these will always appear green. They might not look like that in your testing as though they're normally printed out in black and white, but they contain chlorophyll, which is a green substance which makes them green, which results in why we have green leaves in plants. And they also have permanent vacuole, and that pretty much takes up all the space in the cell, or most of the space. Okay, so to remember the function of chloroplast, we have chloroplast bathing in the sun. Okay. The cell wall contains cellulose, supports and strengthens the cell. It's this chemical called cellulose that strengthens it, and plants produce this by using glucose that they make from chemical reactions. Okay, permanent vacuole, that contains cell sap. Now, the cell sap contains a weak solution of sugars and salts. Chloroplast, where photosynthesis occurs, it contains chlorophyll, as we've already mentioned, which absorbs the light needed. So here, this guy's absorbing all that sunlight, which is basically the thing that they need for photosynthesis to occur. Okay, so we're going to look at some exam practice. Now, this is really crucial because there's no point in learning the content if you can't actually apply it. So pause the video for a second and write down your answer. Okay, this is the answer. So to transfer energy to the cell, or where energy is needed to make ATP, and they mention here, it's important that you say energy is released, not made or produced or created. It's the idea of it being released, and you just got to remember that. And by aerobic, like I nearly slipped up earlier and I nearly said anaerobic. So mark your answers, and we've got another one. Okay, name the type of cell that does not contain mitochondria and suggest why this type of cell does not contain this cellular structure. Pause it. Okay, So 2 marks here. Bacterial / prokaryotic cells do not contain mitochondria. Mitochondria are larger than bacterial cells. Now, we've already mentioned this before, how prokaryotic cells are just too small. You just got to remember that, to contain these larger, more complex subcellular features. Okay, well done if you made it to the end of this video. Give yourself a reward, give yourself a break. Like if you enjoyed, and if you've got any questions, leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer them. And subscribe if you want some more, as this is a new channel, so hopefully you will be expecting some new videos soon. Okay, bye.